So when we moved in the house, I wanted to join the Professional Engineering Auxiliary. So I called the treasurer of the society, and I said, I'd like to know where to send my check to join. And she said, well, I'd like to meet you. Where do you live? And I said, well, we live in a town called Oro Valley at 45 West Calle Concordia. And she said, well, I live at 40 East Calle Concordia. And I said, I think we could meet in person, like right now. So that's how I met them. We spent many years going to engineering society dinners and meetings with the Krieghs, plus I knew them through the town, so we knew them very well. He was the most gentle, polite, thoughtful man that I think Larry would agree that we've ever met. I went on many rock hunting trips, camping trips with others, and he was always there. And I never saw him lose his temper. He was always very patiently explaining things to everyone, what to do, how to do it. And another thing about him is he was a professor of civil engineering at the U of A, and he's very proud of the awards he got for his career there. And the awards he's most proud of were the students that gave him the awards more than the peers that he worked with. After Jim retired, he met John Blenert, who is a very well-known, excellent metal detectorist in the state. And so he taught Jim how to metal detect for gold. I said to them, well, I like going rock hunting. Why don't we go rock hunting if I go metal detecting with you? So we all three did both. And so Jim and I went out Wednesdays and Saturdays for 13 years. Jim and John and I joined the Gold Club, Desert Gold Diggers. So we'd go to meetings there. And there were 150 people, I believe, at the meetings. A lot of men, mostly men, some of us women. And one of their speakers was a planetary scientist from the University of Arizona, Dr. Kriegh, K-R-I-N-G. And he said, well, you people are out with your metal detectors. You should be looking for meteorites. And he brought some meteorites to show us and showed us what to look for. And everybody said, yeah, okay. And everybody continued to do their own thing. Well, Jim and John went up to Gold Basin to go gold hunting. It's called Gold Basin because there is gold there. One Thanksgiving, November 1995. Well, they came back from Gold Basin, and Jim is all excited, more excited than I'd ever seen him. He said, I think I found some meteorites. And so he took them to David Kriegh at the University of Arizona, who looked at him and said, yes, those are meteorites. Are there any more? And Jim said, well, I think they're all over the place. And Dr. Kriegh said, well, this is exciting, but if that's true, that's really exciting. And he asked if they would be interested in mapping the field for the university for 2 years as volunteers and keeping it a secret. And Jim and John invited me to be one of the 3 mappers. So I started going with Jim and John to map the field. They all heard this talk. Many of them went to Gold Basin all the time, and nobody but Jim Kriegh looked down, heard a rock that sounded like gold, picked it up, looked at it, and said, I wonder if this is a meteorite. Since he was a civil engineer, he would get called by people when it rained because their drainage was bad, or their house was flooding, or their yards were flooding, or the streets needed blockades because this street in front of us, across from the park, there was a big dip. And when we had a heavy rain, we couldn't get up to Oracle Road. When Jim would need help with the streets and roads, he would call on his son, our son, Red Roof's son, Lauren Root's son. Mm-hmm. So everybody in town that had problems with dips would call him in the middle of the night even, or whenever. So he'd go out and put up blockades, do whatever he needed to do, go to people's houses to discuss drainage all the time. And when he was a paid town engineer, I remember that he would go inspect, like Sun City, he'd go inspect himself. He'd get up on the roofs and make sure they had the right amount of nails in the roofs. Town council, and said he had an idea to build a hotel, which is now the El Conquistador. But he said he wanted it to go up quickly so they could start making money quickly. And since my husband's an engineer and our son Ben was an electrician and draftsman, now an engineer himself, knew about this way to build a project that's called fast tracking. And that hotel went up in 11 months from start to finish, believe it or not. Yeah, it was mentioned by Steve and Jim Kriegh several times that it basically saved the town.